Hey family, welcome to How Love Works, where we talk about the principles for a lasting love. Today we're going to talk about emotional immaturity. Emotional immaturity. Last time we talked about the issue of mindset and how important it was for any relationship that you enter into. I think just for review, I will go over it very briefly. What we discussed was that it was important that you have the right mindset anytime you enter into any kind of relationship, but specifically a relationship where it's an interpersonal relationship, an intimacy-based relationship. Because if you enter into a relationship that is with a fixed mindset, then it's going to be more likely that that relationship is going to end up going off the rails. But if you do enter a relationship with the proper mindset, which is what I call the growth mindset, that's the type of mindset that will allow you to continue to evolve in the relationship. The relationship will never ever really get boring because of that type of mindset. Most people enter their relationships with a closed or fixed mindset. And that's why, as we were talking about these 7 areas or categories relative, why is it that women will say end up in relationships that epically fail? Those are the 7 reasons that we're going to be discussing over the next few days and weeks, if it takes that long. But at the end of the day, I'm going to just be dealing with this very short and brief issue: emotional immaturity. Emotional immaturity is something that you see that is, in my view, epidemic in the African American community. I mean, it's just not in our community, obviously, but it's epidemic from the standpoint that you see it quite a bit. One of the telltale signs of a person who is emotionally immature is that that person has a very difficult time with responsibility. Let me say that again. That person has a very difficult time with responsibility. And I don't care what it is. They just have an issue with it. They always try to find a way to either blame someone else for their issues, or they try to sidetrack, or they live in some sense of denial. They just don't want to take personal responsibility for the decisions that they make. Now, one thing that's kind of contradictory here when it comes to emotional immaturity, a lot of times you will find people who own their own homes, or they're renting and they're doing well and they have their own cars and they have a great job or whatever. And on the surface, it appears that they're doing pretty good, right? But one of the big problems is once they enter into interpersonal relationships, that's when you see all the red flags appearing. And that's when you need to really pay close attention when you get into these relationships. Because if you don't pay attention to the mindset of the individual, you see that they have a fixed mindset about different issues. It's just black and white with them. They're not talking to you and they're not relating with you so that they're learning, they're trying to evolve, they're trying to grow, they're trying to add value to the relationship. That's not their issue. Their issue is they have a predetermined, prescribed way of doing things within their relationships, and if they're moved one way or the other, sometimes it can be a Mount Vesuvius eruption. And so you can have all kinds of problems. Another problem that you find with these people is they have a problem with resiliency. So if they run into any problems that you will normally find in the average relationship, they're going to have some issues with it. They can't bounce back as quick. They have also problems with reality. These people live in denial a lot of times. And so when you're dealing with people who are emotionally immature, and especially you see it arising in relationships, that's the type of mindset and the type of perception that they have, is that they just have a very difficult time dealing with what is. That's their problem. They have a real problem dealing with what is. You tell them the truth, you give them the facts, They have a problem with it. If it doesn't conform to their preconceived notions about how relationships should go, even if all of their relationships have been epic failures. That's what's crazy. Even if they've experienced no success, they will not budge. Now, that's kind of borderline mental pathological mindset, but that's where people live. They're very uncomfortable doing anything different. Now, along the same lines, here are some other things that you can notice when you're dealing with someone who has this issue with emotional immaturity. You'll see that most of the time, they can be some very extremely selfish people. A lot of times. They're very competitive. And one of the tests that I like to do, especially if you meet somebody for the first time, you go out with them or whatever, if you get a second or third date, do something that's going to be kind of crazy that you would never think of doing. Come up with a game, a board game or something that's kind of competitive, and play the game with them. Maybe if you can come up with a game that you're very good at, that you win most of the time, play that game with that person and beat them and see how these people respond, because it gives you a real good insight of how it gives you a good insight of their mental capacity, their emotional capacities. See if they're immature. Can they take getting a little stress, a little spanking on the backside when it comes to game playing? You'll be shocked at what you see. Okay. Another problem is these people have issues with attention and love. They can't seem to make the distinction between the two. I find that a lot of women, I think this is where they kind of get it confused. A lot of women, they think attention is love and love is attention. And it's a little shaky, but for the most part, when you find people who get into relationships and the main thing with them is, they're always they're trying to get instant gratification. In a way, it lets you can tell that you're dealing with an emotionally immature person, because if you've looked at some of the programs that we have on television today, like the Housewives of Atlanta and the Housewives of this city or that city, Housewives of DC and Housewives of Hollywood, Housewives of I don't know, Miami Beach, whatever the case may be. The point I'm making is if you ever notice how these women dress, the dresses are so tight that you have to pour their bodies into those dresses. The makeup is just off the scale. It's all about attention. It's all about attention, and it's the wrong kind of attention. They're using sensuality to catch men's attention. And of course it works, but you're going to get the wrong kind of attention. And it does something for their psyche. It's like an ego rush, but it's not the right kind of attention. So why would you want to be in a relationship with someone like that who seems to be focused? Their main focus is on some biological need to get, a rush of dopamine of sorts, so that they can feel a high. And that's what some women do, as well as men, but women is where you see this most often. Another area where you see a lot of this emotional insecurity is in this codependency relationships with people. You see it a lot. You see these girls, they have a hard time making decisions, and they go along with whatever the man wants, and it's like if they feel like if they say the wrong thing, they might lose the relationship, or they don't want to sound or act as though that they're going to be very difficult to be with. So they kind of go out of their way to be a lack of trouble, I guess you can say. They don't want to cause any real ripples in the relationship. They're really afraid. And so it's sort of a codependency situation for some of these women. But those relationships never work. They never work. Men can smell them. Most men, especially a guy like me, I can't stand codependent women or men for that matter. I can't stand them, because you're not getting the authentic person. You're getting a yes man. You're getting a yes girl. Who wants that? You know, that says something about me when I'm in a relationship with someone, and in order for them to be in a relationship with me, they don't want to cause any waves. They don't want to be. They don't want to be real. And I can't be in a relationship with someone like that who can't be real. So, and that's number three. Number four, which is the last one, is volatility. As I said earlier, you know, just that little game thing where you might play a little game with them, or you put them around a lot of different people. And one aspect about a person who is emotionally immature is that one thing they're not very good at is that once they get in a relationship with another person, you know, they have issues with control. They have issues with a lack of empathy. They have a hard time seeing the world through other people's eyes. They only see the world through their own eyes. That's it. That's the only thing that matters, you know. And so one of the reasons why it's so difficult to be in a relationship with an emotionally immature person is because they don't make good partners. They just don't. So if you're in a relationship with someone that's already that based upon a lot of things that I've already mentioned, if you're in a relationship with someone like that, one thing you don't want to do is become their personal therapist or try to fix that individual. You don't want to do that. You want to get as far away from that person as you can. If you are in a group or your best friends are emotionally immature, one thing you need to learn about life in general, everything's connected. So if you're in a group of 3 or 4 or 5 people, you're going to be the sum total of all of those people. So if a lot of them are emotionally immature, all of their relationships are shipwrecks. All their relationships end up in ditches. The relationships that they're currently having, they don't really work. They're just kind of going through the motions. Some of them are violent. They're going back and forth, back and forth. There's no real commitment. No one's in love. Everybody's just playing the flesh game. You don't want to be in that number. You want to break ranks. You want to get as far away from that dysfunction as you can. And it has nothing to do with you thinking you're better and they're not. This is about your health, your emotional and psychological health. You have to get away from that type of environment and those types of people because they're operating from a fixed mindset. You're not going to be able to change their minds. You're not going to be able to tell them any different. They're just going to get an attitude and they're going to do all the things that I just outlined relative to emotional insecurity. They're not going to live in reality. It doesn't matter that their life is in the ditch and has been in the ditch for 20, 30 years. It doesn't matter that everything they do doesn't work. It doesn't matter that the children they don't have access to their father. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The only thing matters is that they are being or given the attention that they're seeking, and they're being acknowledged somehow, some way, some form. That's the only thing that really matters. They're kind of addicted to it. And that's the problem with emotional insecurity. And so it's not a big topic, but it's a big topic. A lot of people who are online and trolling and, you know, they find something wrong with everything and everybody. Most of these people are in that category. They're emotionally immature people. And you can't have a relationship with these people. You just can't. Because you can't sit down and have an adult, rational relationship with a child. It's not possible. So, with that being said, you need to make sure that you have the right mindset when you enter into a relationship, a growth mindset. And number 2, you need to make sure that you are not emotionally immature in order to have a relationship. I see you on the other side. God bless you.